carelessness of his ancestors. Not only had the MacNachtons of the past done little to hide their dark nature, becoming the night riders of people's worst nightmares, but they had also bred outside the clan. They left behind living proof of their existence, but far worse and unforgivable. They had deserted their offspring, leaving children behind to grow up with gifts they did not understand, and that, all too often, got them killed. The moment the MacNachton laird Cathal had become aware of the problem, he had sent out as many of his men as he could. Dozens of MacNachtons were on a hunt for the ones they now all called the Lost Ones. Not only did their clan need the new blood the Lost Ones could bring to Cambrin, but the MacNachtons' greatest enemy now hunted the Lost Ones as well. An ever-growing number of hunters were on the trail of anyone with MacNachton blood, and it had become a hard-run race to see who would find all the Lost Ones first. As soon as the trees began to thin out, Gybbon signalled his cousins to go down on their bellies. The three of them crept along, barely rustling a single leaf, until they reached the edge of a clearing. Gybbon was idly thinking of how good they were at sneaking up on outsiders when the clouds suddenly slid away from the full moon and he got a good look at the person facing down 8 well-armed men. They had definitely found a lost one, was the only clear thought he had for a moment. She was small and looked as if she badly needed sustenance. She was also dressed in rags and needed a bath. Crouched as if prepared to spring at her enemy, she had her small, long-fingered hands held up, long nails that Gybbon knew could easily rip out a throat readied for attack. A snarl twisted her full mouth and exposed her fangs. One man already lay sprawled on the ground between her and the other men. Her ragged gown and pale face were spattered with the wounded man's blood. A man of fastidious tastes and habits, Gybbon was shocked by the abrupt, fierce attraction he felt. She was a feral creature, as unlike the women he favoured as a thistle was to a rose. Even the pure-blood women of his clan had never looked this feral, this dangerous. The fact that he could not even see her eyes or face very clearly, due to the tangled mess of her long, thick hair, did nothing to dim the attraction suddenly knotting his innards. He felt his fangs fill his mouth, and he knew it was not just because of the strong scent of blood. He wanted to sink them into the woman standing there, covered in blood and mud. Forcing aside his confusion, he signalled to his cousins. They needed to slip into the clearing at her side and her back. They also needed to show the hunters that they faced not 1, but 4 MacNachtons. Gybbon hoped that would be enough to cause the men to flee. Although he ached to rid the world of this pack of hunters, a battle now could lose him the girl, and returning a lost one to the nest was of greater importance. Women with outsider blood were fertile, and his clan was in desperate need of those. When the thought of her bearing a child for some other MacNachton nearly made him growl, he pushed all thought of the woman from his mind. He had an enemy to rout. "Ye killed Donald," cried a short, stocky man. "Nay, but I will if you take even 1 step closer," said the woman, her voice clear and sweet despite her battle-ready stance. Gybbon nearly shook his head as he used the shadows to get as close to her as possible before he was seen. He did not understand why she did not just run. Why would she face so many armed men when she could outrun them or disappear into the shadows? They had not cornered her. She still had routes of escape open to her. "Ye will die here, demon bitch, and we will sniff out your stinking spawn and kill him too." It was hard not to curse aloud at the words stinking spawn. Now Gybbon knew why she did not run. Somewhere, close at hand, was a child that might also have MacNachton blood. He signalled his cousins, and one by one, each of them stepped out of the shadows. Martin moved to the woman's right, Lacan to her left, and Gybbon stepped up behind her. He wanted to stand in front of her, but he had to make sure she did not try to flee from them once the hunters were gone. When she spun around, Gybbon smiled, revealing his fangs. It was the quickest way he knew of letting her know they were allies. Alice Boyd stared at the man who had crept up behind her. The fact that he had been able to get so